Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our pop-up broadcast. Before we get into it, let me share this with you.
Book, brother, and you know what? You got my favorite book of all time right here. I'm gonna tell people to read this one.
1 year ago today, I was fortunate enough and blessed to release Flashpoint to the world, manifesting the moment of your big breakthrough, and I wanted to serve you. It was the third book, but it was my first solo book. The publisher called it a dense read. There's been many testimonies so far that I've received over the past year with the live events and the book. But today I wanted to do this in between the holiday hustle and bustle. I wanted to take some time to just show my appreciation to every person that has come to the live events, and more importantly, the book, the folks that actually purchased the book, listened to the book, read the book. Today, I want to thank some of those people who are with me. So I'm going to start by bringing on Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller of the Red Carpet Connection. Hello, Dr. Andrea. Welcome to the program.
Well, hello and congratulations for your anniversary.
And I was just thinking, you were here 1 year ago. You were here in the Philadelphia region, and we were at the Doubletree Suites in Mount Laurel, which ironically, that was where we did the Flashpoint Live event.
Right. I had woke up this morning to a video that I had made like talking and introducing you to my friends and saying, hey, this is, Flashpoint, we're doing this fun launch and having this wonderful meeting. And Marilyn Morales was in the video and some other people. It was quite fun.
It was. And I know you're going on a journey yourself with the things that you're working on with relationships and helping people brand and all the things that you bring to the table. But, I'm somebody you met out of thousands of people. You've met, I don't even know how big is your Rolodex now?
So I have 75,000 people in my phone, and this is not, by the way, to be very clear, this is not an email list of people I don't know. These are 75,000 people that I've met throughout the last, actually, I've only been tracking it the last 7 years. So it's a lot of people.
75,000 people. That's amazing that you've met.
Mm-hmm.
You have been passionate about connecting people, elevating their brands, and bringing a lot. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen for you in 2024. But I'm one of those people that we've built a relationship. I've been to your location there at your beautiful farm, at your husband, your children, and I love your location there. And I'm just wondering what is it about Flashpoint that impacted you? But before we do that, I want you to let the world know what you're passionate about right now. So if we could just dial into that, and then I'd love to hear what you think about Flashpoint, how it's impacted you.
Well, I can combine them together, actually. So for me, a Flashpoint moment, I've had several since knowing Austin and being aware of what he calls a Flashpoint moment. And I had another epiphany just late last night, so as I'm merging my brand to go back to the foundation of my business, I own multiple businesses, and I always had a relationship business, Ignite Your Relationship. And because I was very successful at that, I was on 2020 in the early 90s and a whole bunch of news and radio shows, over 2,500. People started asking me, hey, can you help me with my business consulting and my publicity consulting? So, I became a consultant and helped other people show up in the world and be heard and get their brand out there. And throughout all that time, I met all these beautiful, wonderful people. And I actually started tracking it and keeping it once we had a cell phone, where we could write things down in the moment. And so now I'm really focused on showing people how to build billion-dollar relationships, and the value of relationship capital is one of the greatest assets anyone can have, especially entrepreneurs, but really anyone. And we learned that during, COVID, that it's the relationships that you have that keep you going. And so now I focus on, successful mind mastery and connections, and still do publicity and business consulting and bringing that all together. And so last night I had another flashpoint, is that I've really downsized my business on purpose to be more grounded with my family and my life. With the suggestion from Austin, we're not only friends and peers, and I'm kind of his client and he's kind of my client too. I've done publicity for him. He's done some consulting for me. And I realized he told me once that I needed to just be in the void based on a song. And I realized last night I was watching a Christmas movie, The Boy Named Christmas, and I realized that I never really brought Christmas to our home with my children. And it was because I grew up in a tumultuous household. And when things were great, they were great. And when they weren't, they weren't. And I found Christmas upsetting because it always seemed that no matter how joyous my mom made it, my dad would always end up with some argument or a fight. And so I found Christmas sad, holiday sad. So I realized yesterday that it's like that's something now I can step back into because I don't have to have that old negative reinforcement of negative be in my life. So that's a flashpoint moment now that I can actually enjoy Christmas and have things, and I don't have to worry about anybody fighting or having a problem,
Yeah.
So quite joyous. And so, flashpoint moments do happen in all of our lives. The flashpoint moment I had to, reconnect and really have a better relationship with my husband. We have a good relationship, but we're empty nesters now. So I now have this opportunity. We've spent the last 3 months redefining how we want to live the rest of our lives together. We have 30 or 40 years possibly left, maybe more. So let's make them great.
Wow, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I can feel that. And it's, I often say, like, with the flashpoint, it comes in an unexpected way. Like pulling off the Henry David Thoreau quote, which is in the book, the unexpected, and I feel that happening for you in some way. And I want to hear I want to hear more about what you have to say, especially if there's anything you glean from the book. But I want to also we have a couple other folks on here. First, I want to bring in Mario Pinardo. Mario was at the event last year, and let's bring in Mario here. Hello, Mario.
Hello, Austin. It's good to see everyone.
Good to see you too. And it's interesting because you were at the event, and now I'm looking at your moniker here, the founder and CEO of Achievement Dynamic Institute. And you're, in a sense, going back to your roots, but with some new revelation. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're working on and how Flashpoint maybe coincided, or the book. I know you read part of the book, and
I read the whole book. Sure. Yeah. No, it's first of all, I did have a major flashpoint moment, which I'll share with you in a moment, that really has changed the trajectory of my life. And it was like that. The light went on. But prior to that, prior to all that, my history and where it all has come from is when I was a kid, just to give you a little background, when I was a kid, I was an avid goal setter. I mean, it was a dirt bike at 14, a horse at 15, my pilot's license at 16, because my dad always said, you can get whatever you want, just figure it out. Because in other words, I'm not going to buy it for you, but if you can figure it out, you can have it. So I always heard yes, yes, yes. So I constantly was, and I even made a list of all the things I didn't like about myself. I was, like dorky clothes, dorky haircut, the whole 9 yards. So I was on a roll, and I became so infatuated or obsessed or whatever with goal setting, because I thought it was the key to happiness, And so anyway, I also became a big brother. So I became a mentor when I was 20 years old, and that was 46 years ago. And I've been with the program. So what happened was in 1985, one of the big moments was my mom called and said she wasn't feeling well, and they're doing tests. And 10 days later, she died on my 28th birthday. And I was getting married in 3 months. We were closing on a house in 1 month. And I said to Renee, I says, honey, I says, look, I said, one thing for sure, the quantity of our life, my mom was 60 years old. You would think she had, 20, 30 more years. The quantity of our life, we have no control over. The quality of our life, we do. And I always wanted to teach goal setting. So we have to give up the house. We had to get out of the mortgage. I said, somehow I got to figure this out. And July 1st of that year, I opened up Achievement Dynamics Institute, July 1st, 1985. And I ran the Institute for 30 years. And at first it was goal setting. And then as I started to acquire clients, I realized that setting goals was a first step, but becoming the person that can achieve those goals was where the rubber hit the road, And so I started to develop workshops on characteristics, and when people got stuck, when clients would come in, they could come all the workshops they want for the year, and they would drop in, and the topics went from kick procrastination, time management, handling transition, conquering adversity, overcoming rejection, any characteristic that we had to build into the planning system. It was a 90-minute workshop. So here's what's happened, and here's how Flashpoint ties into this. I haven't, in 2015, I shut everything down, just doing personal consulting. But this year, I had a flashpoint where I realized I did one workshop online for the Chamber of Commerce. About 40 businesses came, and so many people were saying, "Where's all your material been? We've been, it's like there's no more Achievement Dynamics." The flashpoint was, I'm putting it online, and I'm not putting it online for me to teach it. I'm putting it online for everyone else to teach it. And so there's communities from family empowerment. I've worked in over 20 school systems. My wife has worked with over 100,000 kids in the Camden school system since she developed her program in 1980. So it's going to be family empowerment, youth empowerment, business and corporate empowerment, which I specialized in all those years. And anyone can create a community that's going to empower those that have common goals so they can work together and do that.
So I want to pause for a moment.
Uh-huh.
I had a little tech issue, so I want to welcome in our audience. For some reason, Facebook decided to make it only me that was watching the video. So we just changed that. So I want to welcome in our audience. And this is about the Flashpoint book we're talking about. It was a year ago today the book was released. And I'm excited to appreciate Dr. Andrea Mario, and we have Joe Eric Mattern in the green room, and we may have some other folks joining here. But Mario, thanks for sharing that. What was the takeaway from the book?
The takeaway from the book, two things. One was the fact that just like that, a flashpoint came, and it changed the trajectory of my life, right? With that realization. And also, when I stopped doing training, I kind of felt that part of my career was over, of my life was over. And your book talked about a time when you thought your life was over and how you reinvented yourself from there. So that inspired me, because I've had that feeling once or twice, that you didn't know what was going to come next, or you thought you had a plan, and that no longer was going to fit anymore. So that was a big inspiration when I read the book, was how that happened in your life and how you dealt with it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that was the whole reasoning behind that, is to not only my story, the story of Napoleon Hill. There's stories in there to understand that that's a part of the journey too. And it's I don't know that it's going to make the pain any easier, but that perspective, it could be a micro moment that changes everything for somebody. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to bring on now Joseph Eric Mattern here. Has got a rich history, and he's somebody who I want everybody to get to know. And he picked up the audiobook, and I think he picked up the hard copy too. So I'm going to bring Joe on right now. Joe, welcome to the program.
Austin, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And first of all, I want to congratulate you on recently retiring. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that first, so people can get to know, share a little bit about yourself, including your retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, first of all, I am free, I am present, and I'm moving forward. And congratulations on your 1-year anniversary of Flashpoint. Thank you for helping me over the years as a life coach. Thank you for letting me know the audiobook existed. It seems just like yesterday that I encouraged you to do the audiobook. because I knew that it would benefit so many people, including myself. It's hard for me to get into hard copy reads. And the book was just life changing. I did it over 3 days into pieces, and it was absolutely incredible. And thank you also on the compliment of retirement. So I'm 58 years old. I'm battling a weight issue. It's been a huge issue all of my life, and it's affected my health. And I said, hey, I have a few years left till I really am due to retire. So let's take, the time and energy and actually work just on my health. So I made that decision about 2 months ago after a 15-year journey and time in the aerospace industry, which I very passionately connect to, and say, hey, let's just work on the health. So the first thing that I did was I got rid of all the noise and the frustration, and I settled into the audiobook, and it was life-changing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I appreciate your intentionality around it. Joe was very intentional in his approach to listening to it, and he was giving me updates, and he was committed to go through it because it's an unabridged version, and it's 6.5 hours.
Wow.
So it's Dr. Andrea was blessed me with doing the credits, but I literally spent even though the production was 6.5, I probably have 40 to 50 hours into it because I chose to do it myself instead of going out and hiring a professional studio. So I know there's some things that I want to improve on it, but what was important to me is to get it clear, to get it out. And Joe, you're a former voiceover professional. So why don't we get your opinion on it publicly? Because I'd love to, let people know if they're interested in getting the audiobook.
Absolutely. So first of all, you did an amazing job, Austin. There's no one that can tell the story of Flashpoint like you. And your tonal and voice inflections were absolutely amazing. You did an incredible voiceover of that book. I mean, it was from your heart. You could feel the energy. You could feel the connection. It could not have been done any better. And I know that when you and I first talked about that, I encouraged you to do that specifically. And I think, yeah, you did that with excellence. Also, too, I was so inspired by Flashpoint that I elected to, for the first time in my life, kind of check off a bucket list item, which was to do my own book and my own life story and be able to connect Flashpoint into it and say, hey, this is the life that I was given. It's not the life that I chose. And how can I improve on that? How can I turn that around? And so I want to implement what you taught me, which is I am free, I'm present, and I'm moving forward into the book. So it'll be my life story connected with what I've learned in Flashpoint to be able to help others.
I want to thank you, Joe, for your encouragement, because you were one of the people that said you need to do it yourself. You need to do the audiobook yourself. And the fact that you now are committing to share your story, I think it's such a beautiful testimony. Oftentimes we look at people who are on the mountaintop, right? Who have, and you've accomplished a lot in your lifetime, but as we all do, we have these challenges. And I admire you for bringing this and not waiting. Like, you're going to begin now, you're going to plant your flag, and you're going to be transparent and start to do your book, which you started already. I think everybody needs to follow Joe, and we'll get that out there. But I want to pause for a minute and go over to Dr. Andrea and just give everybody time to chat. We got TJ here is in the chat. She's saying, Joe, very, you know who that is. And yes, audios are much better read by the author. It's true. And I think that the audio is going to grow, Joe. So I think you're at the right time. I think people want more than just to read a book. I think we want both. And if you're listening, what do you prefer? Do you prefer audiobook, hard copy, both? I prefer both. They both speak to me differently. And TJ is saying, so happy that Joe will be telling his story. So Dr. Andrea, just want to throw it back over to you here. And I have
So
another guest I'm going to try to get on here too.
sure. I'm not surprised that Joe did voiceover. So Joe, I've done been in radio for over 30 years, and the second you spoke, I went, "Oh, I would love to hear his voice on a comedy show," or like I was like instantly like, "God, I love his voice. It could be so much fun." So to hear that, what a gift for you. And it's exciting to hear your journey. And Austin had mentioned that there was someone who was doing leaps and bounds and doing something wonderful with weight and the world, and I'm assuming that was probably you. So I am so excited. He just had wonderful things to say about this great person. So I'm gonna assume that was you, and kudos to you on what you're doing. And that had come up because I'm a plus size person, and I had talked about where I'm ready to shift now. I held my weight for a reason, and that reason is no longer necessary in my life. So your flashpoints, Austin, Joe's story is not unlike of those of so many that have shared at the Flashpoint lives that you've had in the past. There was two of them that I attended, the one a year ago and then another one in the spring, where people stepped forward and said because of you they were able to see a flashpoint that happened to them or manifest one and be able to share it in a more poignant way that literally led them in a different direction or trajectory than they ever had anticipated. Are there some others that are standing out for you, Austin, that you'd like to share?
I am humbled by, I can't even tell you the statements. And I think it's important, and I'm going to share this kind of from the heart here, that when we go to make changes, we go to do something to make a change in our lives, and we take action, there's this huge positive emotional uplift that we get to experience. But on the flip side, not everybody is going to celebrate that. And I talked about it yesterday on a video. Excuse me. In the book, I talk about polarity is always at play. So when you intensify a positive force in your life, you kind of can awaken the opposite side of that. And that's why I say it's always about polarity. The world has told us to be positive all the time, and that is BS. The positivity comes when we are looking at both sides of the spectrum. And to not be surprised that when we kick up to do something, we also kick up a negative family member, a coworker. 90% of the people will ignore you because they don't want you to succeed. And it's important to understand that. So the reason why I'm saying that is that when you start to move forward, there are people that are going to give you messages and sentences, and they're going to send you things. I call them seeds. And instead of putting the extra value on the mountaintop, put that value on the seed. The person that says, I see what you're doing. I appreciate you. The text message. Thank you so much. And that's what I kind of live for now. So while I embrace the vision, the big vision, when somebody says your name is going to be on my lips when I die, like things like that, you can never put a price tag on. You saved my life. I was thinking about committing suicide. Like these are things that I've heard over the years. So they're the things that matter. They're the things that people hear that make all the difference. And in order to be in that place, Flashpoint, we need to get over ourselves, because we are our biggest challenge in terms of what we do up here. Like there's an infrastructure that we've built that is supposed to keep us safe, but it ends up preventing our growth. And so I appreciate all the folks in like Joe, who I found on social media, TikTok, where I was just out there doing videos. Dr. Andra, we met in Philadelphia. Mario, there's a great story, which I won't get into now. There is no accident how I met Mario, but I'll tell you what the genesis of it was. When I was in my corporate world, I had this thing I called the IQ level. And you may have heard this before, but it's not like Albert Einstein IQ. It's I quit. And and you can use this for yourself. And the IQ level is that whenever you say to yourself, I'm done. You're working on a project and you say, I quit, I'm done. What you do when you take one or two steps after that is where you get a breakthrough. So I was out cold calling one day and I hit my IQ level and I said, I'm done. I quit. I'm done for the day. Like nothing's happening. And then I said, wait, just do one more. And I know, Mario, you know the story.
Mm-hmm.
I was out, I went into this old house. There was this like old house that was converted into a business. And I went in there, I turned in, it was a manure, like fertilizer business. Nice cup, Dr. Andrea. Anyway, I go into this office. Come to find out, the guy that worked there, the owner, was a previous owner of the company that I worked for. And through a series of events, they were so impressed that I was out cold calling. They invited me, even though I never really knew them personally, I became friendly with them. And they invited me to these different, like going, what do you call it? Al Banfi wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
He invited me to the book launch, even though I had nothing to do with it. And that's where I met Mario. But had I not done that cold call that day, I would not have met Mario. So when you say to yourself, I'm not going to show up, and then you show up, that's where the breakthrough is. Like all of you today, Joe showed up, Mario showed up, and we're going to do another one. I didn't really give people ample notice. So this is like a pop-up, but we're going to do another one of these in the new year.
Austin, can I share something? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's another side of that story that is knowing that hearing that story again. I have to tell you that might have been 10 years ago, right? Maybe more. All right. Maybe 10.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to take you back how we met, because in February of 1986, I had my office and I couldn't figure out who wanted to do goal setting, because the average person never heard about a teaching, like who teaches goal setting? Like, why would you need that? So I'm talking to, man on the street. And it wasn't until I joined the Chamber of Commerce and business people wanted to hear about it, but the average person wasn't really that interested, because it was 20 years before anybody started to actually, do this, as a coaching thing. So anyway, I get the Chamber of Commerce book, and the fellow that you're talking about, Al Banfi, I was just calling up every company and saying, do you want to learn goal setting? Do you want to learn goal setting? Do you want to learn goal setting? And so I called this company not knowing it was a behemoth company, like 14 offices, 100 salespeople, right? And I go to the vice president of sales, Al Banfi, and I pick it up, and he picks up, right? And I'm thinking I'm talking to like, maybe 10 salespeople guy, right? And I go, do you want to learn goal setting? And he says, yeah, come on in, right? So I pull up this company. I'm like so intimidated, because this giant office building, and I go in, I sit in front of this man, and I swear you could play ping pong on his desk, because it was so big. This guy was big. Everything was big, right? And he had a big cigar in his mouth, right? And a real handsome guy, about 6'4", right? And he says, all right, young man, he says, I'm going to give you my lowest producing office, and if you can make that office move, I'll give you another one. And that office became top office in 2 months, and every office he gave me became the top office. And that's how I became friends with Al Banfi, and that's how you and I met. But if it was me cold calling, in 1985 saying, I gotta try this guy. And here, that's how we both on a cold call to the same man 30 years apart.
You see how that shows up.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's so I want to encourage you, although this is a celebration of Flashpoint, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't serve you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think we feel like we could be giving away gold bricks. But like you said, Mario, people aren't interested. It's fine. But we want to go find the folks that want to hear the message. And I think that's what it is with Flashpoint. When people are ready for it, it'll show up. So just for time, because I'm doing an event tonight called Seeds of Infinitude, and it's based on the upcoming book. And once again, I am shocked when you move in the direction of what you want to do, in the middle of all the confusion, something is revealed. And when that something is revealed, it may seem strange. So poetry for me is like the third love you meet, or where you don't expect it. You just wake up, right? You ever, some people can relate, you fall in love and you're like, wait, you weren't, you weren't the person I was supposed to fall in love with, but you fell in love with somebody and it surprises you. It's unexpected. And that's what poetry has become for me. And now I'm using poetry in my programs to inspire people. So today we're doing a really interesting thing. It's not just a live poetry reading, it's an immersion. It's going to have music, cinematography. It's going to have interaction with people. There's going to be some presence, like interaction, this unique thing that happened from the live events. And then I'm going to do a communication assessment, because what happens during the holidays is we talk to more people, family, and some of that's good. Some of it, again, polarity is always at play. So sometimes we're excited for somebody. I'm like, oh, there's that person that and I need to communicate, and I'm feeling stressed about it. So tonight we're going to talk about that. And then on December 30th, I'm doing another event called AIR. They're both in Haddonfield, New Jersey. If you go to austinjhaynes.com, and I'm going to pause because I just want to take a moment. Dr. Andre, am I missing anything?
Oh, I was just, you're not missing anything, although, there are people that we're missing that would love to be here. So I've just been tagging them a little bit on your live here, and just sort of remind people that they have opportunities to step up and be a part of all of this. You're always looking for sponsors and other people who would like to share or contribute. And, there's so many possibilities. And of course, then because you coach as well, you don't always share that with everyone.
Right.
You're very humble, but you do coach people from, multimillionaires to CEOs, to people in their relationships, to entrepreneurs, to startups. You have this 19-year history of being, a major sales producer, and your ability to read people is a gift that is warranted, and that should people want something better in their life, you're a great asset for them.
Right. And I want to, if you go to the website, I'm doing a complimentary clarity session. If you want to just chat, you can do that. But I want to take a moment just to thank Dr. Andrea. And there's many other people. So if you're getting this and you're not on here, I'm going to do this again because I want to thank as many people as I can. This was a pop-up because it was the anniversary. I had 2 events coming today, which I tend to be aggressive in my booking with things because I want to get the positive things out in the world. But if you want to be on this, if you have the book, you are a part of it. I'm going to do this again come the next couple weeks, probably going into the new year. We'll give you some ample time. And I would love for Dr. Andrea to join to host. I know Mandy's out there. She was a big part of Flashpoint. So I want to get her on here. She's got an incredible story, and everybody's working on things that can help the world. So you can come on and talk about your thing. Joe, you didn't mention it, but you're an abuse survivor. And I want you to mention that before we wrap up here too. But I just want to thank Dr. Andrea for her ability to show up consistently and serve. It's a lot of times we don't notice, we don't appreciate the things that people do. And I'm guilty of it too. So I just want to thank you for you came out here, you helped, with the audiobook, you set up an event for me out there. We had the event that you did. You just want to see people succeed. So I thank you for that. Mario, what people don't know is all the work that you and your wife do with troubled youth. Your wife, Renee, and your daughter, Maria, they've done so much in the communities, stuff that the masses will never know about. But they may see that young person show up with respect, character on a job interview, and they may have came from the bridge that Mario and his wife were a part of. So Mario and his wife are very passionate about community. So the stuff you're learning about today, the Achievement Dynamics Institute is the kind of the tip of the iceberg. It runs deep, and it runs into a heart that wants to serve. So Mario, thank you for being here today. Go ahead, Dr. Andre. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in again before you go to Joe. By the way, I met Mario. What a wonderful guy, super fun. And we're realizing that we need to reconnect because we hadn't talked since last year when we took a picture together. You have anybody who's listening to this who, needs last minute gifts. You mentioned the cup. Every time Joe said, he said the phrase here, get free, stay present, and move forward. We have our mugs right here.
Nice.
So that's what Austin was referencing, but he has mugs, and he has other paraphernalia and fun things that you can have as gifts and stocking stuffers to give anybody that you love, whether it's a friend or family member. And then just last night, I was talking to a new connection, and another client has a free Kindle book for giveaway. And as we were talking, she said, "Oh, I have Kindle Unlimited." And I said, "Well, let's pull it up." And I coached her through that. Right now, Austin's book is available. If you're Kindle Unlimited right now, you can get a free Kindle book of Austin's right now as well. And so it's fun to have there's something very interesting about having the real copy, and reading it, and then hearing Austin read it to you. The depth and the value is so different and fun. And then having it on screen as well, so you can take it with you on travels, that's a gift in itself. So.
Nice.
Yep. It's, I think it's the best, whatever, $15, $20 you'll spend. You can gift it to somebody if you don't want to listen to it to yourself. You can go in Apple. Joe already put a review up there, and maybe Joe can share that review. But Joe, thank you for jumping on here and confiding in me with getting the book, buying the hard copy, reading the book. And this is what's beautiful about you. I talked about seeds. Seeds are planted, and now Joe's going to put his book out. You see, and now it's just a beautiful ripple effect. So Joe, I'd love for you to just share. And again, I'm grateful that you showed up today for everybody.
Well, Austin, it's a pleasure to be here. The book is it's difficult to write. It is. And as you mentioned, I am an abuse survivor. I don't talk about it that often, but what I encourage people to do is I encourage people to watch the movie featuring Brendan Fraser called The Whale. Because why I am like Brendan Fraser is I do weigh 600 pounds. The difference is that I have a support system of people that love me, that help take care of me, where I have a much higher quality of life. It is impaired, but I have my voice. I have a positive attitude, and I'm going to work through a lot of my past to just move forward. So with that being said, I ask that people that meet people of size are very compassionate about what that person is going through at the time and not be judgmental. And as a result, allow them to find their way. And I'm very gifted to be an open water swimmer. I've learned to swim since I was 5 years old. And that's going to be a part of my journey, is just swimming off the weight and putting this past me. And I'm hoping that I can inspire other people of size to say, hey, a majority of what you're dealing with is this is in your head, right? This is a mental struggle that you have to deal with, that you can achieve any goal in life as long as you set your mind to it. So Austin, thanks for the opportunity to be here. And again, congratulations on the 1-year anniversary of Flashpoint.
Thank you so much, everyone. And if you're listening, we're going to do this again. I want to thank as many people as I can. I know TJ is in there, a huge supporter of what we're doing. And I do want to tell you, I'm going to be focusing on relationships next year. And so I think there could be some collaboration between Dr. Andrea and Jim Hetherington, who's not on the call, but I'll get him on the next one. Jim and his wife have been married over 40 years. Mario, you've been married a long time. So we could do something really cool with relationships as people struggle. And I know it's a great, great struggle for folks. And speaking of that trauma, trauma shows up in different ways. For Joe, it's showing up in weight, right? For somebody else, it could be in their heart. Their heart may have absorbed it, their kidneys. Like, we don't know. We know everybody has some area of struggle. And I just believe that this will shed a little bit of light into that to help you tell your story, as what Joe is doing right now. And you'll realize how cathartic and healing it is, and how it's been for me. I can't even, I'm just humbled by it. So thank you so much. Lots of love to you, Dr. Andrea, Mario, Joe. We are just getting started. I'm glad we could jump on here in the middle of the holidays. And again, for those of you, if you're in the Haddonfield area, I'm going to be at Earth Eats Co. in Haddonfield, New Jersey, 4 to 7 seeds. Seeds of, oh, Mario's coming. That's right.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yep, for sure.
You can get Mario's autograph.
Yeah, I'll get your autograph. Right.
And I know Dr. Andrea would be here if she was local for sure. I could actually use you today, Dr. Andrea, but in a good way, I mean. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone.
If you need any help, also let me know. I'll be happy to help you out tonight as a support person.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. It's going to be, I got some stuff planned. Some stuff is going to happen in the moment. That's the way we love it.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much. Lots of love. And we'll talk to you soon, everyone. Go to austinjhaynes.com. Bye for now.